In a world saturated with noise, chaos, and conflict, it can be easy to believe that peace is something you must constantly fight for, defend, or even attain through struggle. You might feel that harmony is a fragile state, easily shattered by external circumstances or internal turmoil, prompting you to engage in battles whether against others, against yourself, or against the circumstances that seem to threaten your serenity. Yet the truth is often quite the opposite. Peace doesn't need your fight. It exists inherently within, waiting silently for you to recognize its presence and allow it to unfold naturally. Understanding this requires a shift in perspective, a deep internal realization that the pursuit of peace through effort and struggle can sometimes be the very thing that prevents you from experiencing it fully. When you believe peace must be fought for, you inadvertently create a perpetual cycle of effort, resistance, and disappointment. You may spend hours, days, or even years chasing after external conditions, trying to change the world, others, or yourself to find that elusive state of calm. However, true peace is rarely something you acquire through force. It is something you accept and surrender into. It is a state of being that arises when you stop battling with life and instead learn to flow with it. When you stop resisting what is and begin to embrace it. Peace begins to reveal itself in the quiet moments of acceptance. This doesn't mean passivity or resignation, but rather a conscious choice to stop fighting against the natural order of life and instead align yourself with it. Recognize that your mind often perceives peace as a goal to be achieved, a destination that lies somewhere in the future. You think, when I get that job, or when this conflict resolves, or when I find the perfect moment, then peace will finally be yours. But this mindset keeps peace perpetually out of reach because it is rooted in the illusion that peace is conditional, dependent on external circumstances or internal states that are always transient. Instead, understand that peace is an inherent part of your being, always present beneath the surface of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. It is like the sky behind the clouds. No matter how stormy the weather, the sky remains unchanged, vast, and calm. Your task is not to create or fight for the sky, but to clear the clouds of mental clutter that obscure it. Let go of the notion that you must control everything around you to find peace. Control is an illusion, an attempt to impose order on a world that is inherently unpredictable and ever-changing. When you cling to control, you create tension within yourself because life will inevitably challenge your efforts. Instead, practice surrender and active letting go of the need to dominate or manipulate circumstances. Surrender does not mean giving up. It means accepting what is without resistance. It is a conscious choice to stop fighting the present moment, to cease the inner battle against what is happening now. When you surrender, you open space for peace to naturally emerge from within. The more you resist, the more turbulence you create. The more you surrender, the more peace you invite into your experience. This surrender begins with awareness. Notice your thoughts, emotions, and reactions without judgment or attachment. When you feel anger rising, recognize it without trying to suppress or justify it. When anxiety takes hold, observe it as a passing wave rather than a permanent fixture. By simply witnessing your internal landscape, you create a space of detachment, a distance that allows you to see things more clearly. This clarity reveals that many of your struggles are rooted in stories you tell yourself, stories of lack, deficiency, or the need for control. These stories often fuel conflict and resistance, making peace seem distant. When you challenge these narratives and acknowledge their impermanence, you free yourself from their hold. You realize that your suffering often stems from attachment to ideas of how things should be, rather than acceptance of how they are. Practicing mindfulness is essential in this process. Mindfulness teaches you to be present with whatever is happening, without judgment or the desire to change it. In the present moment, there is no conflict, only what is. When you fully inhabit the now, you discover that peace is not something you need to chase or fight for. It is a state you can access by simply being. This presence allows you to see beyond the illusion of separation and conflict, revealing the interconnectedness of all things. You begin to understand that your perception of disconnection or opposition is often a projection of your mind, a story you tell yourself to justify your resistance. As you deepen your awareness, you realize that the external world is a mirror reflecting your internal state. When you are at peace within, the world around you appears more harmonious. When you are caught in turmoil, your external experience mirrors that unrest. This understanding shifts the focus from external circumstances to internal cultivation. Peace is not something you can force from the outside. It arises from within as a natural consequence of inner harmony. Therefore, your primary responsibility is to nurture the conditions within that allow peace to flourish. This involves cultivating compassion, patience, forgiveness, and acceptance, qualities that dissolve resistance and open the heart to peace. Forgiveness plays a crucial role in this process. When you harbor resentment, anger, or bitterness, you create inner conflict that distorts your perception of peace. Forgiving others and yourself releases the emotional burdens that keep you trapped in suffering. Forgiveness does not mean condoning harmful actions, but rather freeing yourself from the chains of grievance. It is an act of compassion that restores your inner calm, allowing peace to flow freely. As you forgive, you release the need to fight against the past or against those who have hurt you. You recognize that holding on to anger only prolongs your suffering, whereas forgiveness liberates your spirit and restores your inner balance. Another key aspect of understanding that peace doesn't need your fight is recognizing the transient nature of all experiences. Life is inherently impermanent. Joy and sorrow, success and failure, pleasure and pain, all arise and pass away. When you cling to any particular experience, resisting its end, you generate suffering. Acceptance of impermanence is a powerful pathway to peace because it aligns your expectations with reality. Instead of resisting change, you learn to flow with it. You celebrate the fleeting beauty of each moment, knowing it will never last, and find peace in that impermanence. This attitude allows you to appreciate the present fully, without attachment or aversion. The ego often complicates this process by clinging to identity, beliefs, and stories about who you are and what you deserve. The ego seeks validation, control, and permanence, which are incompatible with peace. When you identify strongly with your ego, you create internal conflict because life constantly challenges your sense of self. To find peace, you need to loosen the grip of the ego, recognizing it as a construct rather than an absolute truth. This involves humility, self-awareness, and a willingness to see beyond the limited narrative of the self. As the ego dissolves, what remains is a deeper sense of being, a state of pure consciousness that is inherently peaceful. Meditation and contemplative practices are invaluable tools in this journey. Through regular meditation, you learn to quiet the mind, observe your thoughts without attachment, and access the stillness within. Over time, this stillness reveals that peace is always present, waiting patiently beneath the surface of mental activity. Meditation trains you to let go of the need to constantly fix or control, fostering a sense of surrender and trust in the natural flow of life. It helps you recognize that peace is not something external you must seek, but a state of awareness you can access at any moment. The practice of mindfulness throughout the day further supports this, by anchoring you in the present, reducing the tendency to react impulsively or resist what is. Additionally, cultivating gratitude shifts your focus from what is lacking to what is abundant. When you appreciate the simple blessings in your life, the breath you take, the love of those around you, the beauty of nature, you align yourself with a sense of sufficiency and contentment. Gratitude dissolves feelings of scarcity and longing, replacing them with a peaceful recognition of abundance. It reminds you that peace is not dependent on external conditions, but is an internal attitude that can be cultivated regardless of circumstances. Understanding that peace doesn't need your fight also involves recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings. When you see yourself as separate or disconnected, conflict and struggle seem inevitable. But when you realize that you are fundamentally part of a larger whole, you understand that peace is a collective state as much as an individual one. Compassion for others arises naturally when you acknowledge their shared humanity. As you cultivate kindness and empathy, you contribute to a more peaceful world, mirroring the peace you nurture within yourself. This interconnectedness diminishes the need for battles, as you see that harmony is the natural state of existence when love and understanding prevail. It is essential to remember that setbacks and challenges are part of life's flow. When you encounter difficulties, resisting or fighting against them only prolongs suffering. Instead, approach these moments with curiosity and acceptance. Ask yourself what they are teaching you, how they are shaping your growth, and how you can respond with compassion rather than resistance. Every challenge contains an opportunity for inner peace to deepen, provided you do not oppose it, but accept it as part of the human experience. This attitude transforms obstacles into gateways for greater understanding and serenity. Finally, embracing a spiritual perspective can deepen your understanding that peace is not something you fight for, but something you awaken to within. Whether through prayer, reflection, or simple acknowledgement, recognizing your inherent divine nature or universal consciousness can dissolve the illusions of separation and conflict. When you see yourself as an expression of a greater whole, the need to fight diminishes because you understand that you are already complete, already whole, and inherently peaceful. This realization invites a sense of surrender and trust in the unfolding of life's divine rhythm. In practice, cultivating peace without fighting involves daily commitment to awareness, acceptance, and compassion. It calls for a gentle patience with yourself and others, recognizing that peace is a journey, not a destination. It involves letting go of the need for control, embracing impermanence, and trusting in the natural flow of life. As you do so, you discover that peace is not something external to be obtained, but an inner state to be uncovered, a silent, radiant presence that requires no battle to reveal. The more you surrender the struggle, the more peace reveals itself effortlessly, like the dawn breaking through the clouds after a storm, reminding you that peace doesn't need your fight, it only needs your recognition.